This is the session with the journey into active citizenship, a parallel experience from Moldova, Romania, and Ukraine. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Mike Waldron as host of this session. He's been working internationally for a long time. His experience is quite impressive. And we know him for the past half year working in this project in these 3 neighboring countries. So Mike, you have the floor. I will close the visual, and please, when you feel and if you have anything to share, let me know if I can help. Okay?
Thank you, Claudia. So good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to our informal workshop. We have a number of guests who are going to speak with you this afternoon for the next 90 minutes. It's my privilege to moderate the session and perhaps top and tail it, put something at the beginning, put something at the end, to put things into context. But before we do that, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. I hope that the conference itself, in these very different times, in this very different way, is proving something that is innovative and imaginative and something that works for you as NGOs and libraries around the world. Before we start, I'd like to give those who are with us, who are going to speak with you, just the opportunity to turn on their microphone and camera and just say hello, because you're going to hear from them in a little more depth after I've spoken with you for 5 or 10 minutes. So firstly, I'd like to invite Alina, please, to say hello.
Hello. My name is Alina Nicola. I'm the head of the programs and project department in the library I work for, Valcea County Library from Romania. But first of all, I am a librarian. I have more than 15 years of experience, and I've been directly involved in different activities here in my library, like, book launches, exhibitions, cultural events, or providing information adjusted to community needs in traditional and modern forms, let's say. And also I was involved in and still am in developing different projects in order to advise, guide, and integrate people into society. So nice to meet you all. And for
Thank
now,
you, Alina.
Thank you
very much, and we'll hear more from Alina in a little while. Can I invite Mihaela, please, to say hello to us?
Hello, everybody. I am Mihaela Mereuță, and I am from Gete Chirileanu Neamț Country Library, Romania. I like to talk with everybody who have something to say about library and active citizen, because our library has more experience in more activity with involve of active citizens. We have part of the public libraries as Active Citizens Hubs project. This project was waiting for our libraries, because here in Piatra Neamț City we are fan active citizens.
Thank you, Mihaela. And we'll give you more of an opportunity to tell us about your social action in a minute. We just want to say hello for now, so thank you very much. Can I ask Katerina, please, to say hi to us?
Hello, my name is Katerina. I'm from Lviv, from Ukraine. I work in public libraries. I work in libraries for 3 years, and I work as culture manager, program manager, and event manager. Nice to meet you all, and have a nice webinar.
Thank you, Katerina. Okay, Tatiana, please say hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana Dari. I work as a manager at Antonie Plămădeală District Public Library in Hâncești. I work in library 7 years. I love my works. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. Aliona, both of you are there. And Dimitri.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. Hello to everyone. We are from the Public Library Ungheni, from Republic of Moldova. I am the coordinator of the American Corner Ungheni, and Aliona is the manager of the library. And hopefully we'll have today an active and good meeting.
Thank you very much. And we're waiting to be joined by our friend and colleague Alexander, also from Ukraine, from Gansk, and he will join us in a moment, I think, when he's wrestled with his technical challenge. But in the meantime, I just want to say that when I was young, which is really a very long time ago, half a century ago, libraries did only one thing. Libraries lent books to old people. Now I'm an old person, and I use the library very regularly. In fact, I just renewed 4 books. But I also use the library for many other things, for going online, for meetings, for activities. And one of the things I've discovered in working with the group of people that you've just heard from is that in Moldova, in Romania, and in Ukraine, just as in the UK now and many other places around the world, libraries have become something much more than a place that lends books to old people. Libraries have a huge amount of potential. And one of the things that we've discovered on our journey over this last 5 months is that potential can spill over, not just from being ideas, but can spill over into real action. And our workshop is called A Journey into Active Citizenship. But it really should be called Our Journey into Active Citizenship, because we've gone on a journey together. We've learned from each other. We've actively listened, and we've shared not just about our vision for what we can do in our communities, but in terms of the potential for bringing people with us. So I just want to sketch out for 5 minutes before we hear from our friends about their potential social action, to sketch out a little bit what our journey was. Because we started by sort of nailing to the door some of our principles for engaging with this particular journey. And the first was that, why should it be somebody else's role to bring about change in communities? They say in the UK that if there was nothing to complain about, we would complain that there was nothing to complain about. And a lot of people complain, and it's quite right to complain, and it's quite right to bang the table and say, we wish this was happening. But actually, some people, they don't just look at what is happening and say why. They say that they look at what is not happening and they say why not. And they are active citizens. So if not us, who? And if not now, when? And our journey has been an opportunity to share and to harness our expertise, our enthusiasm, and our imagination towards seeing libraries as hubs for community action, moving from words into actions. And this is what you're going to hear about when our friends and guests speak to you about their social action. And then we'll give you an opportunity to hear from them in greater detail when I ask them a few questions. And then we'll give you an opportunity to throw in some questions from the floor as well. But our journey really started as an international collaboration between Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine. We started to look at the principles of social action and what do we need to share? What do we need to sign up to? What should be our mutual compact or contract? And the first thing that we considered was there should be a process of inclusive decision making. If we're going to engage with communities, through communities, it's not enough just to say, we are going to give you information. Perhaps in the old days, ministries, municipalities, even libraries, they were sources of information. But that's a bit of a one-way journey. And we might feel that we're doing something good to the community if we give them information. But can we do something that is valuable for the community if we consult? We might say, we're going to do this on this date. What do you think? So it's still a consultative process. It could go a little further. It could go distinctly further by, instead of us telling people we're going to do this on this date, what do you think? We go to a community and we all sit together and we say, what do we need as a community? And that process of inclusive decision-making, rather than just giving information, that underpinned the process of our deliberations and our planning together. It was an imaginative process. It meant that those communities that we're working with are engaged rather than marginalized, that they are empowered rather than disenfranchised, that they're included rather than excluded, and that whatever we do as social action, people will own and people will look after because they've been part of the process since the beginning. So the principles that we embraced were principles of inclusion, principles of sustainability, that whatever we do, we would like our social action, we would like our engagement through libraries in the community to be something that will last when we're gone, because libraries themselves were brought about by people who hoped that they would last when they were gone. We wanted our ideas potentially to be scalable, so things that could legitimately be copied in another country, if necessary, through a conference, if necessary, or even just to spill over the garden fences and into the rest of our neighborhoods. It should be able to grow, and it should be able to be copied, and it should be able to be last. But we also thought that it should be something that was needed. So we've all come across the concept of the vanity project. Somebody wants to do something, let's throw some dollars at it and let's do it, without giving any thought to whether or not the community really needs it. If the communities need something, they're more likely to cherish it and treasure it and own it for the future. It needs to be realistic, and it needs to build the capacity for the people who are going to deliver the social action. So libraries themselves become not just a hub for idea generation. They don't become just an engine for energy and activity. They become a clearinghouse for people to share their thoughts and to test their ideas. So we moved from building on basic principles to thinking about, okay, what do we do to put this into practice? And one of the approaches that we took was actually focused on the concept of human-centered design, sometimes regarded as a process of design thinking. Now, design thinking, many of you will know very well, but design thinking is very often applied to the production of artifacts. It's really a design process. But as human-centered design, it can work very well in planning and delivering community-based social action. And that's one of the things that we looked at in our journey together. So we looked at the underlying principles and then the journey of design thinking and how we could apply it to social action. So we looked first of all at how we can really define a problem and think about what the issue is owned by a community. And from defining that problem, we looked at how we can research the root causes of the problem. And is it really a problem for everybody? And if so, why? We looked at how we would ideate or come up with new ideas for tackling that problem and innovate and do things that were different. And then we looked at how we can try it out and to build it and to prototype it and test and tinker at the edges to see if it would work realistically in communities. It would leap off the paper and into reality. What we say in design thinking is out of the head and into the hands. And finally, we look at how we can evaluate and make it work. And the projects that you're going to hear about in a moment really take to heart this process of design thinking, underpinned by the principle that the people that live day to day with a set of problems, they are the people who have the solutions in their hand. So design thinking and human-centered design, we are using because it's a great tools to use as teams to bring about inclusive and owned change in communities. And finally, we thought about how do we bring people with us? If it's going to be something that makes a difference, where we're happy to fail because we can learn from it, we need to bring people with us. And advocacy and messaging for our social action was something that we took very seriously. And we considered, what do we need to apply in terms of our planned social action? The first thing was that it needs to have impact. It shouldn't just focus on what will be the features or activities that we engage with. It should focus on what difference will it make. If we don't do this, how will the community, how will the country, how will the world be less well off if we don't do it? So what's going to be the impact of what we do? How do we make sure that all people are included? How do we make sure that how we get our message across works for the people we want to speak to? If we want to speak to a younger audience, do we send them a formal or official letter? Or do we do something that's a flash mob, or something that uses online technology, or something that engages people in an innovative and imaginative way? Does our message for what we want to do, does it contain a hook? But does it have something that gets people? And does it capture people's imagination? Does our story of what we want to do, is it humanized? Does it get people with their heart as well as their head? And does it have a call to action? So do people know what we want them to do? And if we're able to envisage all of these things together, we ask ourselves 3 questions of our plan. So what? So what is the impact? Says who? What is the evidence that this can work elsewhere, that it has worked in the past? And finally, who cares? Who might be a stakeholder in all of this? So we've followed this journey from thinking about the principles of social action to considering, okay, where do we influence and bring people with us? And what tools, for example, design thinking, can we use to make this work? And through that process, the culmination of our individual and collective discussions in Romania and Moldova and in Ukraine with libraries and with NGO partners has resulted in really imaginative and innovative ideas for social action that are pertinent to a particular community, but I think you'll see have an opportunity to spread far and wide. And I'm going to invite now our guests to really give us just a short, probably about 3 minutes each, a short introduction to their social action. Social action is at the end of the process. This is what's going to happen. This is what people envisage will happen. And then I have an opportunity, I have a privilege to ask them some questions about their planning, and you'll have that opportunity as well before we close. So if that's okay, I'd like to first of all invite Alina, if she would first give us first introduction to what her social action might be. So Alina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mike. The aim, let's say, of the social action that our library will develop, having as partner a strong NGO which activates here in our county, is to increase the awareness regarding the importance of health, education, and more precisely, one of our objectives is to increase the awareness on the importance of respecting the rules and practical measures for the safety of every child during COVID-19 pandemic. So because going back to school is looking a little different from what we were used to before, we want to help the children from our community to stay safe at school, first of all, and of course in their home. And it's possible that schools may reopen for a period of time, and then a decision may be made to close them again temporarily. But it depends on the local context. So we have to be prepared for any situation. And it's true that sitting with uncertainty is stressful for every one of us, but we have to be able to accept the situations as they are, and also be realistic with our children. So that's why we want to help them to focus on the things they can control. such as how to wear a mask correctly and proper hand washing. And this is briefly the social action that we will develop here in the library, in the community, actually.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alina.
Thank you.
One of the things I noticed when I was working with Alina to hear on her plans for this social action was quite how pragmatic and rooted in the community need it was. So thank you, Alina. Welcome, Alexander. I'm glad we've managed to solve our technical gremlins and able to welcome you to the platform. I'll give you a few moments to settle in, so I won't go too. But I'll ask Aliona, please, if you would give us a sense of your social action, and we'll give you about 3 minutes for that. Thank you.
Okay. Our social action is a campaign called "Women Can Succeed Women Can Succeed from Home." The aim of this action is to support women which negatively were affected by this pandemic situation, and trying to involve all these women in activities which can rehabilitate them economically, socially, and psychologically. The idea of this action came when the quarantine forced more and more women to be released from their works, to stay at home with their children and just doing the house work. And here the public library, Dimitri Cantemir, was trying to solve in a way this problem, and because we have fruitful partnership with the local NGOs, also conducted by the women, and it's called Profemea here in Ungain, and we have a nice experience working together, and we conducted together a lot of programs for women, and this idea came to help women. Okay, and the purpose of the action is to convince and to demonstrate women that they can succeed from home also, not just at work, and that the social media or new programs can help them and can give them the opportunity to develop different skills and new skills for them to be successful and to raise money. Okay. This campaign will include some activities like online sessions with a psychologist. We'll call this section "You Are Not Alone," and they can the psychology can help them to solve the problem they had. Another workshop will be "From a Hobby to a Business." Here we'll try to discuss and bring example of successful women and how how can you develop your IT skills to success. Another action is another workshop called "New Media, the Opportunity of Personal and Professional Development." And to celebrate the event or to a final action is a public cafe, "Successful Women Models to Follow," where all these women involved in the project, and we were thinking about 160 women. They can meet hopefully offline here at our library, and they can discuss and present their work, and the participants can learn from successful women had success, and we are trying here to not to work with our local women, but we are trying to involve all the rural libraries and the rural women to involve in this project, because
thank you very much both, and I know Aliona, you were behind this, so
yes.
So thank you very much. One thing that struck me about this particular project idea, and we have to remind ourselves that we're at the end of the process in one way, that we've resulted in these innovative ideas, but also we're at the beginning also of the next phase of this, which is bringing it to life and making it happen. One of the things that really struck me about this particular project idea was how it's not only is it a cocktail of different activities and things that will come together to complement each other, it also relies on a really useful, cultivated partnership. And I think this is going to the heart of a lot of the work that we're doing through libraries and beyond. The partnership is really important. So thank you very much both for sharing. I wonder if we stay in that part of the world, and we'll go to Tatiana, please, and ask Tatiana if you would, again, just 3 minutes, just give us a sense of where your social action is going to be at. And this is another interesting one. So Tatiana, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored to participate today in this international conference and to present our project called Promoting Local Tourism by Involving Young Volunteers Oriented to the Knowledge of Local Customs and Traditions. Our library is located in an architectural tourist complex, Manuk Bay, renovated in 2016 with the help of the European Union. That is why we came up with the idea to get involved in promoting local tourism for the development of the locality. We formed a group of young volunteers who wanted to get involved in promoting the locality. We have a partner, an NGO, which has to do with the tourism and is involved in all promotional activities. Of course, we have a good collaboration with the administration of the Manuk Bay Architectural Complex. We are supported by the local public administration. Together with the volunteers, we arrange an attractive space in our library where we will organize activities where the active members of the society we will come up with ideas for improving the social situation in our locality. We will put in that space an information board that will have all the promotional materials related to local tourism. The volunteers made a promotional video materials where the Manuk Bay complex is promoted. Now they are working on a tour guide, leaflets, and various information panels and QR codes. It is important for us that young people know the local heritage. Together with them, we organize various informative hours related to local history. They also learn how to communicate with people, how to promote tourist attractions, use various useful applications such as Movie Maker, Canva, PowerPoint, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects. They will also participate in various cultural activities initiated by the library in collaboration with history teachers. All the materials prepared by the volunteers will be disseminated on the social networks, and in this way, more people will know our locality. The number of tourists will increase, which will lead to a socio-economic development of the locality. We will also promote our actions in the local press. I hope that in the future, It will be a beautiful experience for these young people. They will know better the history of our locality. I am convinced that these young people will use skills and knowledge gained in this project in their careers. We will try to attract other new active volunteers, and we as a library should learn to cooperate better with various partners. On this occasion, we invite you to visit the monumental architectural complex in the Republic of Moldova and the district library located in this building. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. It sounds a bit like Eurovision, where I say, well, thank you, Moldova. Now can we have your scores? But it's really it's a great project. It's rooted in patrimony, I think, and this idea that patrimony is something that libraries, as well as many other partners, have been responsible for promulgating for many, many decades. It's nice to see that there's a project that's rooted in that, but also that it has this economic benefit. So projects need not necessarily only be a drain on resources. They can bring something back in terms of economic benefit. And also, it looks to leave a footprint, a legacy, something sustainable in the capacity building of those who will gain new skills through this project. So really, really useful piece of work. Thank you, Tatiana. I think we should hear a voice from Ukraine, and we have two options. And Katerina is in the middle of my screen. So I'm going to ask Katerina if she will say a little bit about her social action, and then we will move across to Mihail. So Katerina, if we can hear from you, please. Thank you.
Hi again. We have partnered with the district of our city Lviv and decided to create open space on libraries in this district. The district is industrial and it's not enough activity. Citizens live here. We make open space on the library, which can join people to make decisions for the community. It will be a comfortable place to develop and educate. It's a safe place for entertainment and relax, and it's all community together. Adults, young people, old people, everyone. Here will be lectures, seminars, and other different non-formal education about everything, about local development, about ecological problem, about educational and other about violence and how we can decide this problem on this district. Our motto and message from this space that you can change your district, your country, you can influence on everything which you want. And this is safe space for you, for your family, for your friends, and for your development and rising. And we want to write promotion activity among people which live on this district and want to make there more activity and more influence on this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina. And I think, for me, this particular project was really impressive because it takes at its heart the local community in which you are based. And it looks to bring about transformation of the local community, to start like dropping a stone into the river, that it ripples outwards. And it's really taken this particular focus to a multi-generational project. So it's not just for one particular demographic. And I think that really lends strength to not only its scalability of kicking outwards, but also its sustainability, that it can last because it's multi-generational. Okay, thank you, Katerina. Okay, Mihaila, can we hear from you?
Okay. The idea of our action plan developed in this project responds to a real needs for some members of our community who want to go to work and talk and study to and travel in European space. The project promotes the concept of lifelong learning, adult education, and multicultural education in the public library, and wants to improve the level of knowledge of foreign languages by members of our communities. Here is about children, young girls, adults, or seniors, and on to facilitating public access to library. It's a library service for foreign library branch, because here was a little problem with this space. But now all is okay. Local authorities give our space for 25 years. Now we have want to develop a workshop's participant language skills is one of the most important results of this project, because we want to talk about Europe history, politics, history. We want to travel and work in, and sure we want to debate about active citizens in Europe, not only here in our city. The activities who are organized in this project aim to increase access the public to the library document collection, digital library, and foreign collection libraries, because want to use new techniques and methods to study and documentation here, and participating of courses, clubs, and workshops, and learn foreign languages. At the same time, we want to involve more citizens, volunteers, participants, friends of the library, active citizens, to support the library in front of the administration to find new resources for our activities. Practical, we want to discuss about the future of Europe, around our community here, want to promote unity and diversity of people of Europe here, but also for a better knowledge about foreign language. We can't do this. We want to know about opportunities to study in Europe for our youngsters, and the opportunity for our businessmen. This is a way to find our place in Europe and promote the Romanian culture in Europe. We want to have a free space for active citizens in the library, because this space is an open space where people can reading, talking about our problems, about civic problems. We can thinking, planning, and do some project for our community here. We can thinking this project about the steps of design thinking and experimentally practical active citizens here, because we have need to learn more about active citizens, and in this way we can find a good ideas and solution to in this dialogue with local administration.
Thank you, Mihaela, very much. We have to condense it a little bit, and there'll be much opportunity for questions shortly. Thank you very much. I've had a chance, obviously, to speak with Mihaela and her colleagues about this project over the last few months as it's emerged. And one of the things that struck me most about this was quite how it goes to the heart of what active citizenship is really all about, which is it's built upon trust and understanding through dialogue. Because if we want to bring people with us, we want to have ownership, not just in a local community, but across metaphorical and geographic boundaries. We need to have that dialogue. And what this project does is it takes that great world out there and says, this is our audience, this project, but we're going to start closer to home. And it's a really impressive project. So thank you, Mihaela, very much. Last, but by no means least, I'm going to ask Alexander just to say for 60 seconds to introduce himself and then say a little bit about the amazing project that they have planned. So Alexander, for 3 minutes, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alex. Work in Lugansk regional lab. It's now works in little town on the east of Ukraine. It's town Starobilsk. So it's moved from Lugansk to Starobilsk. And our project emerged quite interestingly. We have a code club in our library. It's all Ukrainian network of programming clubs where children learn how to code in HTML, Python, all sorts of languages. And in framework of this code club, we organized an IT marathon. So it was on a couple of topics like digital security, ecology, inclusion, and one of the methods that we used was in the lessons, so-called lessons sessions in Minecraft. So children were building how they see and how they see the solution to problems of ecology, and as they machines and structures inside the game, and based on these structures we were discussing this problem and solving them and learning how to solve them together. And what we noticed is in the registration form for this IT marathon, Minecraft was like first, second, third place, and then it was everything else. So now we want to launch a whole educational program based on Minecraft. And after it will be completed in our library, we will do this for use in local schools, and hopefully it will spread all across the country. So this is our project.
Thank you, Alexander. And I think, for me, notwithstanding the fact that you had to move locations, etc., for me, what was most impressive about hearing about this particular project was the ambition for scalability that they really felt with their partners, that this is something that can be scaled up, not least because it doesn't rely on bricks and mortar and stone. It's built in the digital realm. So it's the future, if you like, of libraries as hubs, is also to engage with this digital realm and to be attractive to this youthful demographic, and particularly young children who know a lot more about Minecraft than I do, even though I see it over my daughter's shoulder. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for giving your really useful synopsis of your social action projects. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper now, if I may, and just try and put some flesh onto the skeleton of your social action ideas, to give our guests and our audience the opportunity to hear a little bit more about the whys and the wherefores and the motivations that you have, as well as your anxieties or concerns about the future for the project, and also your ambitions. And I'm going to start by asking Alina, because you were first out of the trap to begin with, so we're going to go back to you. In terms of your idea for social action, was it collaborative? Where did that idea come from, and why did you decide to follow that path, Alina?
Yeah, the idea for our social action came from our partner, and it's inspired from a personal example. Briefly, she has a child, and she's having big problems in convincing him to wear the mask. So we talked a little bit about this, and we agreed that this is a general problem right now in these times, in these pandemic times, because we all know that the children are not so willing to respect the rules, and mostly they are tempted to break these rules. So we decide to follow this path because in this period, it's indeed very important and necessary not only to know the prevention rules, but also to respect and apply them. So we thought that children are very vulnerable, and they can easily expose their parents, their grandparents, and by teaching them in this ludic manner appropriate to them, why it's so important to respect the rules during the COVID-19 pandemic, um, both in school and at home, they will feel valorized, and this way they will know that they can play an active role in the safety and well-being of everyone. So this was our motivation to follow this path, in our social action.
So it was rooted in a human story, rooted in a personal experience.
Yes.
We have every belief that this project will be a success. But in your opinion, what is the one thing that has to happen? What will be the secret of your success that makes it success?
I don't know. I think there are many ingredients, let's say. First of all, I think that the secret will be the identification of the right partners in order to create the coalition, and of course, the coalition itself, the support that we will receive from our allies and partners. Also, this will be teachers, actors, doctors, also the stakeholders directly interested in educating the children, during these times. And we have to be very convincing, I guess, when we will present our social action we want to intend to develop, in order to motivate and attract the partners that we will really need. So beyond this, if we will add the way of delivering the planned workshops, in this loading manner, and also the collective researches, and let's say a constant promotion of this social action in the community using online and offline communication channels, I think that these will be the ingredients of the success, and of course, a lot of energy, passion, and engagement from the team. I think this will be the secrets. Let's say not only one. I cannot choose one secret. No.
Okay, I'm not asking you to choose one.
Okay.
There are plenty. But I'm going to ask Tatiana. In terms of, we spoke about the principles for successful social action. What do you, and again, I'm not asking you to choose one, Tatiana. It's not a competition. In terms of the most important principle that underpins social action, what would you say that are the most important principles for you?
I think for us, the best principle underlying in social action is the desire to improve the quality of life of community members. Another would be constructive collaboration, active involvement, and effective communication, I think.
Thank you. And from my personal experience, these have all played a role. But we spoke a little bit earlier, and we've spoken in these last few months about the role of human-centered design and design thinking, and how it can be used as a tool to affect change in communities. For you, how do you think design thinking can play a role in that regard in Moldova?
For improving the quality of life of community members, we apply the basic principles of design thinking. we observe society's problems. We want to solve them. We look for solutions to solve the problems. We come up with new ideas, involve interesting people, and act with the community members for problem solving. Yes.
So it's a set of tools, if you like, that can be in our hands. Okay, thank you, Tatiana. Alexander, that you gave just a very brief outline in terms of what you're planning to do with regards to Minecraft, etc., and how you're going to use that as a sort of gateway, as a way into a certain demographic. But you know, what's going to be the impact of what you have planned? Is it just something that some people will be interested in, that young people, their parents, they might be interested in, or is there going to be an impact? And you know, how will the world be a better place because of what you do? So this question that we ask: so what? Why should you do this?
So I think it will help to bring more modern methods of schooling and education, and I think that teachers will be interested. Well, at first, of course, they might be conservative and just don't accept this way of education. But if they will see that this project was successful in our library, they might investigate it and implement it, try to implement it in the educational process in schools. So my impact of this, it will be more accessible, more appealing process for children to educate, and they will not be just sitting at their desks and listening to the teacher, and it will be more engaging process for them.
It seems to me from hearing more about your project that you have a very specific direct audience in mind, maybe young people, their parents and teachers, and then a wider audience going forward. Why do you think it's important to get the message right? You know, if we want to bring people with us, why is it important to get our message right and to have the right approach, the right medium for carrying forward our message and knowing our audience, you think?
Yeah, so knowing how video games is perceived by parents and teachers, it might look as a giant distraction. So if teachers and parents must know how this works and how this educational process is happening inside the game, and so they wouldn't be thinking that it's just like a video game and there is nothing to learn from it and it cannot be used as tool. So we need to also promote this among parents and teachers and explain them how this works and why this works. So this is a sandbox and you can create everything you want in it. So it's not just like scripted video games that children play on their phones constantly. And this is one of the most important things to get right to the parents and to teachers. And again, it might be some distractions in the process, but I think that this game is so centered around learning things, so children can be very easily brought back to the process. So if they got distracted by game and process, we can turn them back to the education.
Thank you, Alexander. So, Aliona, you know, Alexander, he outlines there a very modern role for libraries, to be working with young people, working with information technology, pushing that door of the digital realm. But what's the role, for you, what's the role of libraries in bringing about community change? Should libraries not just be about books? I might be playing devil's advocate here.
Yes, we both do agree that the libraries today not just be about books, because the library nowadays are like multifunctional centers where community can ask for help, can ask for consulting. We think that the library is like a central point connecting the citizens to different important information, different government initiatives, different international projects, and NGOs activities, because the library is working with them, local services. In a word, nowadays the library is the place you can always rely on.
I like that. That sounds like marketing. But if we regard libraries as a hub, Aliona, and it's just to both of you, if we regard libraries as a hub, at the center of something, that implies that there are spokes, that there are things going around it. And, that can be a very useful thing in that it brings about resources that we can harness, or it can be something that's a challenge because we have to service what else is around us. It can be a drain on our resources. But for you, what sort of resources do you draw on when you're looking to bring about community change? Because your project has a cocktail of lots of potential activities. What resources? There are two of you there with Dimitri in the background. What other resources do you get to draw on?
Okay, we think that the main important resources are, of course, human resources, which includes maybe the librarians, the volunteers, with the library friends, as we call them. We like to call them our library friends. Also, public administration are good resources to draw on, and I don't know, maybe different international projects to apply, to develop, and to help to change the community through the library.
Thank you very much. But it's not without risk. And Mihaela, I'm going to ask you now, in terms of, you outlined what is quite an ambitious project. It's internationalist in its scope. You've had some very good news from the municipality with sort of a quarter of a century of concrete security with your space. But beyond that, what's the biggest risk that you face with your social action plan?
Yes. For my action plan, the biggest risk is insufficient involvement of our partners and volunteers to support our activities to the branch libraries, and maybe the law, if the law is not the same in the same time. And what a bigger risk, I think, insufficient promotion our activities who are doing in this space. And I think it's better to try step by step to do in this branch a multicultural center for education for active citizens, because the library are from community, and here people can change destiny, can change themselves, and can learn and exercise active citizen. We have to need to discuss with local administrative in every times, because the library are useful for transforming community day by day.
Highlight, but I said before that your social action idea is ambitious, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. But how are you going to make this project bigger, and how are you going to make it last? So what are your plans for making it scalable, and what are your plans for making it sustainable? And I add in there the caveat, I put the warning in, it doesn't have to be sustainable. It might be your project lasts for 6 months and it's in your municipality and that's all you need. But tell us about your plans for making it bigger and last longer.
We want to diversification of the offer, of the cultural offer for this branch, and here in the same time have more activities, extended access to collection, organizing courses, workshop for learning foreign language, do partnership with local administration, businessmen, private person, and other cultural center, and transforming this library in a multifunctional center for our community, not only one branch library, because we have need open space where citizens come and discuss, can thinking, can exercising, and can access to information. We have here a lot of activities, not only cultural activities, and develop the civic activities and implication our volunteers, partner, and active citizens, a group of active citizens formed in this project, I think is a guaranteed thing for our growth and develop our activities.
Mihaela.
Sorry, my phone.
No problem. Okay, Katerina. We heard a little from Lviv and from your plans for something that's very specific for the municipality, that's rooted in the needs of the community and is multi-generational. But you know, we've come on a journey this last 4 months, a journey towards active citizenship, of bringing in partners, NGO partners and libraries, to take into account the various tools and principles that we can harness. What has been the biggest highlight for you of your journey into active citizenship? Because I know you didn't start the journey this year, that it's a longer process for you.
As for me, it was understanding why I did it. And when I have some mistake or fail, I understand that I can give up and I need to try again and again and again. And because it's important for my community, for me, for my family, and for my city and country, because it's all our community and we influence on other people, and we together in this boat. And it's important to understand for me and help other people understand it, because we have some problem with communication with generation, with the young and old people, because we have different education, we have different country and different level of our understanding what is community, that it's not just other people, it's you, it's me and my family, and it's very important to have high level of life, my life and life of my country.
Katerina, I can sense that as well as considering the highlights for you, that there are some daily frustrations, and I think that can be said for all of us and for all of our guests as well, who are listening in the workshop. That times have changed, that we're living with a new normal. In the UK, it's different from Ukraine. In Ukraine, it's different from Romania. In Romania, it's different from Moldova. We're all different from the USA. We're all different from France, etc. What are your frustrations going forward? What are the things that keep you awake at night in terms of this delivering your social action?
It was and it is that it's not enough people who thinking like me, and it's not enough people who have open-minded, and we have different problem, and we don't understand that we can help each other to solve this problem. And it's so sad because people don't want to gather and to make important decisions. And it's my pain, maybe. It's so sad because it's not enough researchers, human researchers, to make some huge changes.
Thank you, Katerina. I'm going to open up the floor in a moment for anybody who's been listening to our tour of our journey towards active citizenship in 3 countries over the last 4 or 5 months. To put any questions via Claudia, and if you type them into chat, Claudia will pick them up and send them across, and we will seek to answer your questions. We have about I think we have about just over 20 minutes left of our workshop, and we have some space to answer your questions. But while you're thinking of that and putting forward any questions you have to Claudia, I'd like to return, if I may, to Alina, because I have a question for you. Just picking up on what we were discussing earlier, why do you think people are reluctant to volunteer for bringing change in their communities? Because we spoke about libraries as being a hub, and about libraries being a clearinghouse and a place where people can come. But sometimes, you can turn on this electromagnet, if we regard the library as such. You turn on this electromagnet and nobody comes, because the young people think it's for older people and the older people think it's for young people. And those who are digitally native think it's for people that just want to go up the stone steps. And those that want to go up the stone steps think they're going to be presented with a computer. And then we have COVID. So, for you, what do you think is the principal reason why people are reluctant to volunteer to bring change?
So first of all, I think the most common reason for not volunteering, generally speaking, is lack of free time. Because the volunteers are normally people, and they have regular jobs, or that don't really allow them to have a lot of free time for volunteering, maybe another common reason is that the volunteer schedules and commitments are too inflexible, or may be another reason that they don't have information about where to volunteer, or if they do, the jobs are not meaningful or purposeful. So they say they don't volunteer because no one asked them to, And then there are still people who don't find useful doing something for free. So normally these are people who have never been volunteers in their lives. And another thing is that some people think that being a volunteer means that you can come and go whenever you want, as you are not being paid for the job, and which is technically right, but you do have this freedom of come and go. But it's highly important, I think, to tell this to the team you work, and not put them in a difficult situation. Because you still need to have some sense of responsibility, even this is not the job which pays your bills, let's say. And I think most of the people are reluctant to take steps to bring changes in their communities because they are afraid of anything is new, you know. Usually the new means unknown, and the unknown is not very comfortable, I say. And people prefer the situations which are used to. And some of the times people just don't realize that the community need a change. They are so preoccupied with themselves and with their own lives, then they can completely neglect the community issues. I think these are some reasons that for many people are reluctant to volunteer.
Thank you very much, Alina.
Thank you.
One of the things that strikes me very often is that many of these initiatives, like libraries themselves, are the result of what's called cathedral thinking. Cathedral thinking, if you don't know it, and you probably do, but if you don't, it's cathedrals, you know, any great building like this, if you go back to the medieval times, were designed and built by people that would probably never see them finished. But they still went ahead and commissioned these great buildings. So very often projects, we start with something small in mind, but with a view that it may last. It may be something that that becomes part of the next generation's lived experience. And if you go back 200 years, there were no libraries to speak of outside of religious buildings or universities. But now public libraries are in many, many places because people had the vision. And who knows that with these small germs of ideas can give rise to something that can be a social movement. So Tatiana, I want to ask you from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges in making that happen? You outlined what your social action idea was, and it's rooted in sort of patrimony and celebrating that dimension. What are the biggest challenges that you face, not in making it happen, but in getting it from a piece of paper to the stage where you can bring other people along? You're on mute, I'm afraid.
Sorry. In general, in our country, people are passive. They are not taught to solve their own community problems. They are waiting for others to solve them. The local public administration lacks specialists. This leads to less effective involvement in problem solving. We are facing with the passivity of the people. We find it difficult to convince people to join us in various social action of this kind. In our project, it was a bit complicated to find volunteers. We have many active young people, but they say they are busy, and they really are. We found students study tourists and students worked on historical project. That's all.
But if we want to make these things happen, we need to bring people with us. And that's not always easy, because as Alina was saying, some people, they wait for you to ask them, and then they say, well, nobody asked me to volunteer. And there are certain types of individual that we know who will volunteer for everything, and they'll volunteer before they even know what they're volunteering for, which is always a challenge. In the middle, there is the rest of us. And you know, how do we attract people to our ideas? So Alexander, particularly in your idea with using Minecraft for a very specific demographic, what principles of effective messaging can we use to switch people on and bring them with us when we're planning our social action?
So, when Code Club at first, we had they were teachers from university local, and they were one young teacher and one little bit older teacher. So they volunteered for this project, and later on, now they work part-time job at our library. And what was important to us to deliver to people who we actually invited to volunteer, it's that it's a way to upgrade your skills, like to participate in something new, and maybe not in non-formal education, and then you can use these skills on your main job and in your daily life. So it's a new experience, something that was not possible to implement in university. And we come up with this innovation and invited teachers to participate in it, to gain experience. So personal growth, I think, it's one of the best motivations for volunteering.
Thanks, Alexander. And for our guests who are listening, one of the things that we did together was we had a sort of creative visioning activity where we looked at our individual social action plans and all of the detail that was in there and all of the ambition that was in there. And we sort of took a step forward, a leap of imagination into time, and envisaged what this would be like 12 months from now if we were looking back and our plan had come to fruition and everything had worked. And what that enables us to do is to tell a story. And as Alexander was saying there, we need to be able to persuade people. We need to be able to bring people with us. One of the ways to do that is to tell a persuasive story. So I'm going to ask Mihaela. Well, first of all, I'll ask Aliona, what stories of success can you share with us? And then I'm going to come on a similar question to Mihaela. So Aliona. Mute.
Okay. Our library has lots of successful stories, and we love to work with a project that includes active citizenship, because through this people they can make important changes in their lives and in their communities. And for example, this year we had 10 of these groups of active citizenship, and together with the local authorities, they were trying to solve the local problem, which was in their idea was the most important to solve. And we are very happy that they managed to do this, and through this activity of the entire community, local community, was happy, and it was a problem that was solved. And the problems are not very big, as to understand, like to renovate a small park, or to create new parking for bicycles near the school, or projects that can be done And another success story here at library is that 2 years ago we also through Novateka we opened here a Fab Lab in our library, and which is an attraction point for the community also. And I don't know, volunteers are also active. We have active volunteers, which together with them we are like trying to do big things for the community and for the library and for the society, for our city.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Katerina and Mihaela the same question. Do you have some success story that you can share with us? We're coming towards the end of our workshop, and I think, you know, sometimes storytelling as a mode of inspiration is a useful thing to hear. And I remember when I was in kindergarten, at the end of the day, if we'd all been very well behaved, the teacher would tell us a story and also give us a piece of orange. So I don't know if you've got a piece of orange to send down the line, but if you've not, just give us a story. Do you have any story of success, Katrina or Mihaela, you can start to close us off with? So Mihaela, I'll go to you first.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, it's a story, and it's a success story, because here we have a free space of mind, access to knowledge, of universal knowledge. We here guaranteed the civil rights of the citizens, and debate and learn together how we'll be free, how we'll be in a democracy society, and how we can find our rights and guaranteed his rights to access information into a library. Our library is, I think, maybe it's not so, but it's a free library. It's the spirit of this community. I think is a successfully story for librarians.
Thank you, Mihaela. Katerina, the last word before we go to Claudia to moderate us out would go to you. Do you have any story of success on which to leave us this afternoon?
At the moment, we have a biggest part of successful stories, but I think the most important is it's about that we never stop on the same place. We always have challenge, and we always solve our problem, and every time we improve. And it's about libraries, it's about our community. We have a different program, different activities, culture, educational, and all every day we are changing and develop. And I think it's very important, and it's our story of success.
And I think here in Piatănău city, the people and active citizens occupy library. This is a story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mihaela, and a great note on which to begin to close. That Occupy Library is a story, and you know, you've heard our guests who've stayed with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. But our guests have heard perhaps a wide-ranging raft of stories of how we came together, of what we did, the journey that we followed, and that we're following into active citizenship. It's not a destination. It is a journey, a long-lasting journey. Somebody very wise once said that. But I think for me, one of the highlights of working with our partners in Romania and Moldova and Ukraine has been just to get a sense of first the motivation that people have, the resilience that they have, particularly as we're working now in this new normal, their agility in facing the ever-shifting tides of lack of resource, of bureaucracy, of lack of willingness to cooperate, but also their strength in staying together and being supportive of each other. And I commend to you this wonderful transnational project. And it only goes for me to thank all of our guests who have shared their stories with you. And thank you for listening, and to pass over to Claudia, who will moderate us out of this workshop. So thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your stories with us. Before we leave, I just wanted to contribute to this idea of we are part of a journey, and the main idea of this is that now we have a vision of the direction that we want to go. And with this, I invited Camelia Crișan. She wanted to share the story of how the project within Progress Foundation started, how Progress Foundation started to have the vision of helping libraries to become these initiatives and grow these initiatives at the community level. Camelia, please, you have the last words.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. And the first word in the conference. Great to see you all, guys. The idea of active citizenship has started within our foundation, I think 4 or 5 years ago, when we have seen a research study showing that the only type of active citizenship behavior Romanians were displaying were voting. So that was the only thing that people thought as being active citizenship. And we were so beyond anything that has to do with building communities, building resilient communities, building communities on strong points, not always looking at what it's not going to happen or what we don't have yet. So for us, this has been a really interesting journey, because first we had to learn as an organization what active citizenship means. And I thank Mike for that, because he kind of opened our eyes and our minds into that direction. But we took it a notch up. And so we had this project in 14 communities. We piloted it, and we've seen what worked, what didn't work. And where this project has worked, and Alina is a good example, and we have a good example also in Vrancea and some others, where it worked is where people have seen active citizenship as a behavior that people need to learn. They have a saying in Romania saying, you learn flying. So the same is with democracy. So you need to learn democracy. You're not born into it. And we've seen that a lot of Western democracies, they kind of lost track of what democracy is. They take it for granted. And the truth is, and that's why I wrote it there, is that it's ongoing. It's not something that's given to you by birth and then you just preserve it. You have to fight to preserve it, as you need to learn to be an active citizen. And once you learn how to be an active citizen, you'll see that a lot of these movements will transform into a political movement. And I think this is the true successful story of Romania, how a lot of grassroots movements, I was listening to our colleague from Ukraine, I understood her desperation, but a lot of movements, grassroots movements in Romania have transformed finally into political movements. And I think that is the aim for all of us. Yes, to help our communities to learn democracy, to learn active citizenship, but in the end, become active contributors to local public policies. And so that's what I wanted to add. And thank you all for your contribution and your great work. And thank you, Mike, for leading it as you are always doing it in a elegant and nice fashion.
God bless you.
Thank you, everyone. This has been a very good session. Thank you for sharing. International experiences are gained with a lot of struggle, and this is a great team here. Thank you for that. Please stay with us. We have a number of other good sessions. You can find them in the session tab. And see you around, and looking forward to hearing a more successful story in 2 years from now at the next Occupy Library, and anytime in between. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Goodbye. Good luck.
Thank you.